Next on News 10, grief after an RPI student dies inside a cave.
And does your child roll on E? It's the language of a new generation, and it is anything but child's play.
Coming up in weather, not much snow, but a lot of cold.
News 10 at 11 is next.
From WTEN Albany, the news team that's leading the way in local news coverage, on air and online. This is News 10 at 11.
Good evening, I'm Terry McSweeney.
I'm Elisa Streeter, and in his first TV address as President, George W. Bush pushes a $1.6 trillion tax cut.
That story starts off our top 10. In addition to the tax cut, the $1.9 trillion budget plan also gives the highest percentage increase to children's education. It also calls for increases in funding for Medicare and the military. Democrats say the entire package is based on a 10-year economic forecast, which is no more reliable than a 10-year weather forecast. Much more in the story a bit later in the newscast.
Rescue divers will try again tomorrow to free the body of a diver pinned inside a Clarksville cave. 23-year-old Robert Svensson, an RPI graduate student, died last night when he got stuck between rocks. Tonight, the fire department is draining part of the cave to make recovery easier. We'll have more on this story in a live report coming up.
A fire in New Scotland today, but it's not the people who live in the house who called this one in, and it's not the neighbors. It was a telephone repairman who telephoned for help. By the time help arrived, however, there was nothing left of the house on Upper Flat Road. No one home and no one hurt.
They are planning a funeral tonight for another local person killed in a fire. This time it was in Coxsackie. The morning blaze swept through a mobile home at the Diedrich's Trailer Park, killing 87-year-old Michael Rosano. Rosano was found in his bed. The source of the fire was traced to an electrical short under the trailer's floor.
Top aides to former President Clinton will be able to testify freely before a House committee investigating the Mark Rich pardon. Clinton today waived executive privilege, making that testimony possible. Rich, however, is refusing to appear before the panel, and he's not allowing his lawyer to testify either.
One New York newspaper is now asking Senator Hillary Clinton to resign. The Observer published a scathing front-page editorial calling on Senator Clinton to resign. The newspaper writes that Senator Clinton knows more about the pardons than she is letting on and referred to her as Slick Hilly. Meantime, the latest Zogby poll shows more than half of New Yorkers believe Mrs. Clinton is lying about her role in the pardons.
Civil unions in Vermont have already given gays and lesbians the same state rights as straight couples, but lawmakers have refused to use the word marriage. And today, the Vermont Judiciary Committee voted to rewrite the state's marriage laws to exclude gays. The specific section of the law to be rewritten is the same section that prohibits members of the same family from marrying. Gays and lesbians say that is insulting.
A New Jersey man is fighting with his ex-wife for control of their 7 frozen embryos. He says he wants to use the embryos with a future spouse or to donate them to infertile couples. The embryos were fertilized with the man's sperm. His ex-wife says she doesn't want them destroyed, but also doesn't want them used without her consent. The thorny issue between the unidentified couple was argued before the state Supreme Court.
Rush hour traffic came to a standstill on I-90 in North Greenbush this morning after a car struck an SUV near Exit 8. Police say the car's driver, 78-year-old Robert Ash of Watervliet, was attempting to make a U-turn, but instead made a bad turn. The driver suffered cuts and bruises, but will be okay.
State Majority Leader Joseph Bruno unveiled a plan today to set up Empire Zones in Saratoga County. The Empire Zone program has been very successful in attracting businesses and jobs to Troy, Schenectady, and Albany counties. The program encourages growth by giving tax credits to businesses who move to the zones. Now details of George W. Bush's first nationally televised address as president.
President Bush pushed his tax cut plan to Congress and to the American public. The cornerstone of the Bush plan is a $1.6 trillion across-the-board tax cut, which includes reductions in every income bracket. Lisa Sylvester reports on tonight's big story.
It's one of the surest signs Republicans are back in control in Washington. Preaching conservative gospel, President Bush, before a joint session in Congress, outlined a plan to rein in big government and cut taxes.
Our new governing vision says government should be active but limited, engaged but not overbearing.
Mr. Bush's proposed $1.9 trillion budget gives the highest percentage increase to children's education. The president also calls for increases in funding for Medicare and the military, and he wants to shore up Social Security. But the real showdown is over what to do with the $5.6 trillion in projected budget surpluses over the next 10 years. The president wants a chunk of it, $2 trillion to pay down the debt, $1 trillion to go to a contingency fund to pay for unexpected needs, and $1.6 trillion for tax cuts.
The people of America have been overcharged. And on their behalf, I'm here asking for a refund.
But Democrats were quick to take aim at the president's plan, saying the wealthiest 1% will get almost half of the tax cut. And they say the president is basing his budget figures on projected estimates.
Worse still, the president's plan depends far too heavily on a 10-year budget estimate, which is no more reliable than a 10-year weather forecast. And there's no room for error.
President Bush may not have swayed any Democrats, but then again, that wasn't his goal. He's trying to convince the American people that a tax cut will not only help their pocketbook, but will also help the economy. Lisa Sylvester, ABC News, Washington.
Now to that heartbreaking story that has sent shockwaves across the campus of RPI in Troy. A young grad student diving with friends becomes pinned underwater inside a cave. Who can imagine the terror? Stuck upside down, deep in the earth, as the oxygen in your tank runs out. The Earth's grip so cruel that even 24 hours later, rescue divers still cannot free his body. News 10's John Craig is live at the Clarksville Cave in Albany County. He joins us with the latest. John.
Elisa, manpower recovery efforts have ceased for the night, but the work does go on. There are pumps underground here at the Clarksville Caves. They're trying to lower the water table, force out hundreds, if not thousands, of gallons of water so they can have access to Robert Svensson's body. It is a process that will take all night and well into the morning. Here's what the recovery teams have to deal with in the tight spaces underground at the Clarksville Caves. A large pool like this one is what Robert Svensson's body is trapped in.
He's in there. He's wedged from his hips up in horizontal position.
The plan is to pump as much water as they can from the 8-foot deep pool to get a better look at how to dislodge the body. The problem is there are two water sources that feed the spot, known as the lake room. And there's a man-made hole in the ceiling of the underground room. The only positive is the cold temperatures. Normally a hazard in operating in the wintertime. It should slow any water flow.
We feel that if we can see what the situation is, what type of rock or slate is around him, possibly chip away or whatever. But once we can get a look at what the situation is, we can assess it and attack it from there.
The 23-year-old Svensson was a computer science grad student at RPI. He was the vice president of the Scuba Club. He also planned trips year-round. Monday night, Svensson and his cave diving team had been underground for quite some time. The average bottle of air is about 15 minutes, so when he got trapped and rescue efforts initially stopped, it was a race against time, including his roommate, Jonathan Allison, everyone trying to get to the surface to get help. But experts say there was nothing anyone could do.
Where they are, there's areas that are so tight that you actually have to exhale to get through the passageway.
Tight spaces indeed. Svensson is from Sherburne, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. We are told that his sister is in the Capital District and has been on the site for most of the day as this recovery process continues. The efforts will resume in the morning about 7 o'clock when they hope they will be able to get down there and find that the pumping did work to drop this water table. RPI is working on a memorial service as we speak. Authorities say that there have been calls here several times over the years. As we know, we've documented them here on News 10. This is the first fatality in many, many years. Reporting to you live here from Clarksville, John Craig, News 10.
Thank you, John.
Still to come on News 10, an update from California where a college freshman drove his car into a crowd, killing 4.
And does your child roll on E? If you don't know what we're talking about, you should.
Hi, I'm Steve Caporizzo. Check out the national radar on the weather lab tonight, and a tremendous area of snow and ice to the south of us. But notice it's moving east. That's going to miss us to the south. The cold will not miss us. I'll have the complete forecast right after this.
News 10 is sponsored by Raymore and Flanagan Furniture. Elisa Streeter, Terry McSweeney, Chief Meteorologist Steve Caporizzo, and Dan Murphy with sports. You're watching News 10 at 11.
Cold and gonna stay cold.
Well, I'll tell you, tomorrow's the last day of February. March arrives shortly thereafter, Thursday. Do you believe it?
The lion?
Oh, yeah.
Well, what is the expression? In like
a lion, out like a lamb.
Can it come in like a lamb if it's quiet, though?
Shouldn't you know this? Doesn't the groundhog affect whether it comes in like a lamb or out like a lion?
I'm only the weather guy. I'm not into this folklore stuff. Let's check the temperature out tonight. We had this discussion with Rick Mitchell on the radio this morning on WTRY, and he was making fun of me. You know what I said? Rick, you do the radio, I do the weather. Okay, let's leave it at that. 25 degrees right now, humidity 43% with the dew point at 9. The barometer 30.12, a west wind at 9 miles per hour, high today 38. Just about normal, 25. The present reading is the low for the day. Record high 61, record low minus 13. All right, check out the satellite picture. And once again, the theme here with this forecast is for cold and then colder weather as we look ahead to the first few days of March. No warm up in sight. And I looked at some of the 8- and 10-day computer models, and, you know, you take them with a grain of salt. They show no warm-up through at least 10 days, so that gives you an indication this cold air will continue to sag south behind this small, was that a 1 or a 2? No way, I don't believe this guy. Gave me a 1 minute, I just started talking. Here's the winter radar. Snow showers off to the west and some snow flurries, and those will continue out near Syracuse and Rochester tonight. Talking about panic, you can probably see the sweat right up here. 25 Albany, 24 at Bennington, 10 at Saranac Lake. So again, cold air to the north of us will move in tonight. Now, it's not going to be bitter cold. We're not going to have any high winds. But again, when you should be 37 for a high, we'll be hard-pressed to get much above 27 the next few afternoons. 25 here in Albany, 22 Pittsfield, Bennington at 24. It's down to 24 degrees at Glens Falls and 23 at Utica. You see all this moisture, you look at it, and you say, man, we got to watch out. This thing may try to make a run at us, but not the case. This cold air will sag south and deflect this moisture out to sea, and it should pose no problems for us. So again, tomorrow the cold air wins out, deflecting the snow and sleet off the Virginia coast, and then we'll have to watch this reinforcing push of cold air in Alberta Clipper moving down through the Great Lakes. Not a lot of moisture with it, but there will be some snow showers on Thursday. And as this slips on by and strengthens a little bit off the southeast coast and the winds pick up, in comes another shot of cold air for the end of the week. 15 to 20 overnight, partly cloudy. And for tomorrow, we're looking at partly sunny skies. Highs only 23 to 28 degrees. Increasing clouds tomorrow night, 10 to 15. And for Thursday, some snow showers, maybe an inch of accumulation in spots, 22 to 27. Vermont and the Berkshires, for tonight, we're looking at skies to be partly cloudy, 12 to 18. And during the day tomorrow, come on, you. 20 to 25, partly sunny with a northwest wind. Here's your 5-day forecast. On Friday, some scattered flurries in 25 and a cold weekend, but a quiet weekend. Temperatures in the upper 20s to low 30s. Could be a storm Monday or Tuesday. We'll keep you posted on that. That's it, guys. I was a little nervous there.
We heard.
With the weather.
The shorter the better, though.
Involving the audience in your life.
Did you hear her? The shorter the better.
Well, I meant the whole newscast, not just your part.
Okay.
Give us a 1 minute. We want to go home.
We must forge on now. Elisa.
Still to come, a father apologizes for the deadly actions of his son.
And when is the last time you talked to your kids about drugs? Parents in one local community seem ready and willing. In the spotlight tonight, ecstasy. One local community is trying to spare its children from the drug. In Niskayuna tonight, a standing room only crowd turns out to find out about the ecstasy epidemic. What they learned and what you might learn right now could be enough to save a life.
They came to listen. They came to share.
It appears to be like chewable Tylenol, size, color.
They came to learn. In fact, so many came, the little theater at Niskayuna High School couldn't seat them all. For some, what they learned here tonight might have made them feel like sitting down.
We're seeing kids who have strong family histories of depression, anxiety, panic attacks, psychotic disorders, who have never had a problem to date, but you can date, from the onset of use of ecstasy, beginning to have significant psychiatric problems.
All of this because of pills that can look like this. Ecstasy, a so-called designer drug, takes away inhibitions and appetite and gives energy and a feeling of well-being. It's a drug popular at rave parties, all-nighters at isolated locations like warehouses. But the downside is a steep one. The feeling of ecstasy comes from the production of serotonin, but ecstasy can damage nerves that produce it. It can also interfere with mood, memory, pain perception, and other senses. At tonight's meeting, there was some good news about ecstasy, but only in the long term.
Alcohol, marijuana, tobacco, they'll be around for a long time. I don't think ecstasy has very much longer before the truth is out and before everyone will stay away from it. Unfortunately, we're at a point now where the truth is not quite out.
In the short term, parents were encouraged to keep their lines of communication open with their children and dope low an opportunity to talk to them.
Be absolutely certain that you're setting a good example before you do so. Drunken conversations about drugs go down poorly with adolescents.
Now, if the physical and psychological problems associated with ecstasy don't keep you from getting involved with it, maybe this will. There are felony penalties for sale or possession of ecstasy.
When we come back, a famous father apologizes after his son rams his car into a crowd of people, killing 4.
Tonight's lottery drawing is sponsored by your Upstate Ford dealers.
Now let's go to Schenectady for tonight's Take 5 drawing.
Good evening, I'm Kimberly Chapman. Welcome to Tuesday, February 27th, Take 5 drawing being observed by an auditor from KPMG. There was one first prize winning ticket in last night's Take 5 drawing. The ticket, worth over $122,000, was a quick pick from Dutchess County. Tomorrow's lotto jackpot is $3 million. Tonight's winning Take 5 numbers are 11, 12, 7, 24, and 33, making tonight's winning Take 5 results 11, 12, 7, 24, and 33. Thank you and good night.
And here are the rest of tonight's winning lottery numbers. The New York Daily 521, the Win 4 5661, the Massachusetts Daily 6184, the Northern New England Pick 3 965, and the Pick 4 7479. In California, an arraignment has been pushed back a week for the college freshman charged with running down 5 pedestrians. But there were new developments today.
That's right. As we told you last night, 18-year-old David Atias rammed his car into a crowd of people near the University of California, Santa Barbara over the weekend. 4 people killed. Today, his famous father spoke with reporters. Ann McDermott reports.
18-year-old David Atias spoke with his attorney for a moment or two, but was otherwise silent during a brief court appearance. The University of California at Santa Barbara freshman is charged with hitting and killing 4 people with his car Friday night. This footage was taken during the aftermath as police and bystanders tried to subdue the suspect. Atias's father, a television director in Los Angeles, spoke to reporters after his son left the courtroom, his wife by his side.
I just want to say how devastated and heartbroken we are for everybody who's been affected by this. This very horrible tragedy.
Monday night, friends of the victims held a vigil at the scene of the carnage, which a California Highway Patrol officer likened to a plane crash in a residential area.
This is the most traumatic incident I've seen in my 23 years in the Highway Patrol.
Meanwhile, the investigation continues. Authorities are still awaiting blood and alcohol test results on the suspect, and they've conducted more than 40 witness interviews. This Santa Barbara college student shared these recollections of the suspect.
He seemed like he was always very hyperactive and not focused, but then at the same time, he had this complex, like he didn't want to, like he thought he was better than everyone around him.
Atias's arraignment has been continued until March 6th. In the meantime, he remains in jail. No bail has been set. Ann McDermott, CNN, Santa Barbara, California.
Patrick Ewing returned to New York tonight. Coming up, we'll find out how he was received by the fans and how he played against his old pals.
And Murph will have a complete wrap-up of the night in sectional hoops.
Closed captioning is sponsored by Raymour and Flanagan Furniture. News 10 returns in a moment with the Capital Region's best sports coverage.
We go back for our first story, high school hoops.
Yeah, high school hoops going to be big for the next couple of weeks and has been, and hopefully these teams will continue to play on through the states, and it could go on for a while. There have been plenty of upsets in the other classes thus far,
But boys Class C sectionals pretty much held the form through the first 2 rounds. In fact, all top 4 seeds made it into the semifinals. That's a rarity indeed. Would form continue to hold tonight? Well, we begin with a battle of 2 versus 3. Lake George and Fort Plain, and this was a beauty. Lake George's Chris Mentor with that bucket. Warriors led by a point at the half. Joe Palmieri had a huge game for Fort Plain. The senior with 25 points. Toppers up 2 at that point. Then late in the 4th, Gerald Bunker with this huge shot. Nice rotation there. Inside a minute to go. Check it out. Lake George down 2. Josh Miller with the steal. Goes in for the tie. Watch this ball roll off the rim. And that's the game, folks. Fort Plain advances 45-43. In the nightcap, top-seeded Cambridge taking on upset-minded Corinth. Cambridge got 20 points and 12 rebounds from Dan Hamilton. But the 1-2 punch of Corinth's Jason Allen and John Hudak leading the Tomahawks to the victory. Allen with 16, Hudak with 15. Corinth moves on to the C finals with the 46-43 victory. One other boys game played tonight in Class D. North Warren all over Sharon Springs. So North Warren moves on to the D finals. They'll take on St. Johnsville in the D title game on Saturday. Girls back at it tonight. Our spotlight game, a Class Double C semifinal affair between Greenwich and Waterville. Vliet was hot early. Kathleen Carroll curls in that 3-pointer. Teammate Samantha Edwards also had the range. Let her bury this bomb. Lady Cannoneers are moving on thanks to the 51-45 win. They will next meet Voorheesville. Blackbirds took care of Mechanicsville tonight, 53-35. In Class B, Glens Falls and Burn Hills advanced. Glens Falls in a tight game. Burn Hills blowing out Johnstown. And in D, Whitehall and Argyle both score 47, and it was enough, so they move on to the D championship game. Well, he played 15 seasons in New York, missed a lot of jump shots, failed to lead the Knicks to an NBA championship, but all was forgiven tonight. Patrick Ewing returning to the Garden for the first time as the Seattle Supersonic. Early first quarter following a long ovation. Ewing with some inspired play, keeping the Sonics in the game. But the Knicks would take a 7-point lead into the locker room. Allen Houston, 18 first-half points. Third quarter, Marcus Camby going right around Ewing. Knicks fans have seen that before. New York ended the third on a 12-0 run for the game. Camby outscored Ewing 21-12. Knicks win 101-92.
Enjoyed it and, try to tell them thank you and go out and play.
And that he did. Two other NBA finals, rather. Toronto beats Cleveland and Miami over Washington. At the Carrier Dome, Syracuse picking up win number 21 at the expense of the Pitt Panthers. Preston Shumpert has his shooting eye back. Orange up 16 at the half. Second half more of the same, except at the other end, Damone Brown buries this 3. Syracuse plants Pitt 80-69. Here's the shocker of the night. Duke loses at Cameron Indoor, beaten by a very good Maryland team, but Duke doesn't lose at home that often, beaten by 11. And Michigan State goes on the road and nips number 22, Wisconsin, 51-47. Locally, the St. Rose women keep their season alive. They win in their opening round of their tournament. Kristen Z with 20 points, 6 rebounds. Lady Knights will next play Friday at 6. Well, when Siena hired Louis Orr as their basketball coach, they thought they had stopped the coaching carousel in Loudonville, at least for a while, but here we go again. The Providence Journal newspaper reporting that Orr is on the short list of candidates for the University of Rhode Island coaching job. That list also includes Iona coach Jeff Ruland. Rhode Island looking to bring in a name coach in an effort to resuscitate their struggling program. Orr's released a statement saying that he's not yet spoken with anyone from Rhode Island and that his focus right now is on the MAC tournament, which begins in Buffalo on Saturday. On the ice tonight, the Devils on the island to take on the Islanders. Guess that's a good thing. First period, penalty shot. Martin Brodeur coming up big. Game remains scoreless, 1-1 late in the second. Patrick Iliash feed to Alexander Mogilny. His 32nd goal of the season, 2-1 Devils. Devils would control play in the third as well. Turner Stevenson with a pair in the period. New Jersey wins 4-1. Other NHL finals, Bruins with a nice win tonight over Phoenix. Buffalo takes care of Ottawa. Montreal and Chicago both 3-2 winners. And Jim Fossil, the Giants head coach, rewarded with a new 4-year contract worth $11 million. He earned it.
He earned it.
So he gets
He's set.
Let's head over to Steve on Let's Look at Weather.
All righty, we have a lot of cold air coming in tomorrow. In fact, when you get up in the morning, temperatures 10 to 15 degrees from Albany northward, in the upper teens down through Hudson, Pittsfield at 14. Look at this. Speculative tomorrow morning, 9 degrees. Fortunately, not a lot of wind chill to deal with. And we'll have a mix of clouds and sun tomorrow. The brightest sun will be from the Capital District south and east. 24 for a high temperature in Bennington tomorrow and in Amsterdam. Now, as you track west out towards Utica and Syracuse tomorrow, there will be some flurries and some snow showers, but nothing really heavy and no real major travel problems. 5-day forecast. Now, Thursday, here comes some more Arctic cold, and that means snow showers or a little bit of light snow, maybe a dusting to an inch, no major accumulation, but cold weather right through the weekend for the first week of March. Temperatures about 10 degrees colder than normal. All right.
One of the nice local sports stories of this winter has been the play of the RPI women's basketball team. The Lady Engineers qualifying for the NCAA tournament for the first time in school history. They'll play their opening round game tomorrow night at home against Mount St. Mary, a team that they defeated by 6 points in the regular season. This should be a good game. Of course, we're going to go with the Lady Engineers, and we'll have the complete story of that one tomorrow at 11. But that's great for a school to get a small team like that to make a name for themselves, and they could go on this tournament for a little while.
That'd be nice.
Well, that's going to do it for us. Nightline is next. We will see you back here tomorrow.
Thanks for staying up late with us.